Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started and what are they doing to stay there? And here we are. Oh my goodness, already in the month of April. And I have another special guest on the show today as I'm getting to talk to Carla Dykstra. Carla is a senior compensation analyst at Toshiba International. She's also the president of WILCO HR, and we're going to get to talk about that. And Carla, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited to have you today, and I've had you on my list to get you on the podcast ever since I've met you. You've been so impressive. So just kind of reflecting back, I think the first time we met is through Texas SHRM, and we recently attended, I guess I say recently, it was back in January, the Texas SHRM meeting in Dallas. How'd you think that went?
Oh, that was such a great time. That was so much fun. I always love getting together with everyone, with all my colleagues there at Texas SHRM, and just meeting everyone in the state of Texas is wonderful. It's great.
Yeah, it's I tell people all the time, it's like going back to like a class reunion. It just feels like just a close niche of friends that are all doing the same thing, working hard to elevate, the HR profession. Hey, we're going to talk leadership today. We're going to talk volunteer leadership as well. But before we get started, I always like to ask my guests if they want to just share just a brief highlight of their organization. So for you, Toshiba, a lot of people may know the name, but just share kind of a brief highlight of your organization and how you serve your customers.
Oh, great. Thank you for asking. So I will say that most people will probably recognize the name Toshiba. They're thinking of the TVs, the laptops, and all of those things that go back, that go a little bit way back. So Toshiba started, they're headquartered in Japan. So they're Toshiba Group. And so the Toshiba International Corporation is one of the groups under the parent company Toshiba. Based out of Japan. So we are located in Houston. And what we do at our business is we provide motors and engines. So if you're thinking, one of our biggest customers is Ford, and there we do their hybrid motors. So that just kind of gives everyone an example of what we do there. It's great. I mean, I love working there. I've been there for just a year, just hit my year anniversary last year. Woo!
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And so it has been, it seems like I've been there forever when it says it's really been a year. But it's so much fun because they're such a family-oriented organization. And, if you're looking at tenure for those individuals there, I mean, they are just like long tenured employees. We usually see them retire. It's great to be part of that type of organization where they put true value in knowing you as a person and making sure that you can succeed in your roles.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. When I heard the name Toshiba, I could not connect that with a motor as you're talking about motors. And so I know there's some people that learn some things. And by the way, if you're listening right now, you need to get a pen and a journal out and start taking some notes here. This is going to be so good. But you said something that I want to just pause here on, because anytime someone uses the word, it's fun, it's family and value driven, that tells me you're with a mission driven organization. Like that's got to feel good, right?
It does. One of the things that, in communication from our CEO and our president is that he drives our values. It's like, do the right thing, think of the impact, create together. And, it's one of those things that is just constantly ingrained into all of our communications. And it's really how we go about being a great company. And, that's important. I mean, a lot of times, you always have like those, your mission statement, your visions, everything just like posted up on the wall and nothing is ever communicated about it. Right. So, this is like in all of our communications, even the communication that I just put out recently for our, annual salary reviews. Those visions are ingrained in that message. So it's just one of those things that it's really great to know that they really stand behind that. You know, some people probably think, wow, Japanese culture, what is that like? That's kind of different. But, you know, really, I mean, it's not, it's like any other organization. It's, you know, they really take to heart, you know, every single employee.
I love all of that, and I'm going to take a deeper dive into that here a little bit later in the show, because I know you're doing a lot of communicating on the volunteer leader side. I want to get started here with the Carla Dykstra story. I would love to hear, how did you know, where did you grow up, and how in the world did you get into leadership and now like leading compensation?
You know, I was born and raised in Riverside, California. So I'm a California here in Texas. And so take it as you will. But it's one of those things where I'm the youngest of four in my family. And so I was the baby of the family, daddy's girl, and will always be daddy's girl. And so I have two brothers and a sister. They're 12, 10, and 8 years older than I am. So
Oh,
I grew up almost like a single, you know, like a what, only child is what they
mm-hmm.
call it. My family is a military family. And so my dad retired from the Air Force before I was born, and then went to work for the state of California. So I was kind of, you know, coming after all of that, you know, military travel and all those destination things. So I didn't get a chance to do that. And so I began working when I was 16 years old. I felt that, you know, I wanted to contribute, you know, to the society. I wanted to make my own money. My father is the type of person where he was very much like, you know, make your life in the world, and do good in the world. He had an 8th grade education. My mom had a high school education. So my father didn't believe in college, mostly because, you know, when he turned a certain age, he was pulled and he went to go work in the fields. He grew up in the time when racism was prevalent. And so, you know, my mother and father, they had very different experiences with racism back then. And so they were both born in Alabama. So, you know, that's what we call the Deep South.
Mm-hmm.
And so my father always said, you know, do the best that you can, always present yourself well, and, you know, strive for the best, strive for the, you know, for the stars, you know, reach for the sky. And it was, you know, something that I just learned. So starting at 16, I was spoiled. I was the only one who got a car at 16 years old. So with that, I'm just like, okay, I want to go here and there. My dad says, you got to pay for gas. So I got a job. And so when I turned 18, I worked at a deli shop, and
Okay.
it's still one of the really great places to go, but just grinders. For those, if you ever go to, you know, Riverside, California, go there. It's cool. Yummy food. And so when I turned 18 years old, the manager there actually made me a supervisor. So at 18 years old, I got keys to the store, I got the combination to the safe.
Wow.
I was able to go to the bank, and that's where it all kind of started, you know, learning how to write schedules. And so I will always, you know, be grateful to Chris Jones for the opportunity that he gave me in putting that trust in me. You know, I went to college after I graduated from high school, went to Cal State San Bernardino. I loved it. My major was political science. I had I had this dream that I was going to be some type of big time attorney, right? As a little girl, you see these attorneys on TV. You're like, oh, that's going to be me. That's who I'm going to be. Well, it didn't happen. But over the course of going to school, I got to my senior year, and that's when it became more difficult to get the courses I needed to finish my degree. There was, you know, all you know, your capstones, all that was waitlisted. And so I began working full time because I had nothing else to do. If I wasn't going to go to school full time, then I needed to do something else. And so with me not going to school full time, you know, because unavailability of courses, that meant my financial aid went away.
Hmm.
And so started working full time. I got a job working at Kmart, and good old Kmart, the blue light special. Yes, I did
I
run blue
remember
light,
Kmart.
right? It was so great. Yes, and I love, you know, going around with the blue light, pushing the basket every once in a while. That was great. So, you know, through all of that, you know, life just happens. And unfortunately, I actually stepped away from college and did not finish my degree with just a couple of courses left.
Hmm.
And I started working, you know, full time. And I, you know, got into a role, what back then when it was called personnel.
Now you're dating
And
yourself.
But it's true because
Mm,
HR has evolved so
yeah,
much since
yeah,
then. And so I was an administrative assistant because in personnel, you were an administrative assistant. You were
yeah.
not an HR assistant, right? So I started working and I worked I worked temp jobs because I never knew when I was going to be able to get my courses. I started working there and I, fell in love with just working. I think I fell in love with the money, the excitement of it all, and going to an 8 to 5 and dressing up every day and interacting with people.
Mm,
And eventually it just became something I just, decided to do, decided to take on, other different roles and went from a administrative, assistant to like an office manager position. And that was everything HR. But again, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know
yeah.
that an office manager was that. It was, more on the operational side. And it just kind of fell into my lap. And then, things kind of happened and I decided to go into retail because, obviously working at Kmart, you're familiar with retail and it's an easy
Hmm.
job to get. You can, pretty much get those hours that you want to. And then lo and behold, somehow I got this wonderful job working for Pepsi. And oh my gosh, it was the time of my life. I loved it. And so there, I was in personnel again until they became human resources.
Hmm.
And so I did a little bit of everything. So I was, a HR specialist then. And so I had an opportunity to take on a role. They offered me a safety coordinator position for about 5 or 6 years. I worked in the safety role, but under that time it was still under HR. It was great. I took a position out at Pepsi Bottling out in Torrance, California, and I was, you know, it was a leadership role, but however, it was not given that title because back then titles weren't a thing.
Right.
It's like you do your job,
Hmm.
and so I was in charge of a huge facility, everything safety from, everything workers' comp, preventing injuries, and making sure that communication was out about working safely, compliance, audits, all of those things that that you have to do to keep a business running, a successful business running. So from there, that's really how I got my start into HR. And this over time, I just went through different roles. The thing that probably has set me on my course I am today is being laid off your job. You're thinking that, oh, wow, I've worked here for, 3 or 4 years and I'm good, right? What's this thing called tenure? What is that? You're looking in your Webster's dictionary, tenure. Oh, okay. And then you realize, oh, even though I have like 4.5 years, almost 5 years, I'm still low on the tenure, on the tenure pool.
Mm, mm,
And so, back then it's like if you were, the new person, you were usually let go and laid off. And so that's kind of what happened. And I was just like, devastated. You
mm,
work at jobs that you really love. You work with people that you love. It was just, a devastating thing. I go on to another job and, I was at that point a safety manager, and I was known pretty well for being a safety manager. Back then, there weren't a lot of women who were in the safety field. It was a
mm,
male dominated field. And so I can recall just, when we get together and they would send us to these conferences and there would be like maybe a handful of women, maybe
yeah.
10 or less women,
Mm,
and we're sitting in this room and they're looking at us like, what do you know? And of course,
mm.
I'm like this, this little tiny person in there and all these big men, and they're just like, what do you know? And it's like, are you even old enough to be here? Are
Yeah,
you here with someone?
yeah.
It's like daycare's down the street. But it was one of those things where it just all kind of, came together. And probably back in 2006, 2000, between 2006, 2008 is when I made the switch full time into human resources.
Mm,
And so it just went, from there, went to a journalist and moved up. I've been in HR manager roles. That's, I've gone back to safety a couple of times, after that. And so I ended up going and getting to compensation. It's one of my weaknesses that I had in my HR career. And so I decided that at some point, I want to focus on that so I can learn a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so yes, I'm in charge of my own learning still today. I'm in charge of everything that I learn. I need to be in charge of my destiny. So when my husband, he retired from the Navy in 2017. And we decided that, we wanted to leave California and seek out another place that we could live, someplace that we could, live, I would say, a decent life. And San Diego is very expensive to live in. And we wanted to be able to, if we needed to, just, live off of my husband's, retirement. And so we flew here and we visited several different cities here in Williamson County and Austin, and we fell in love with Round Rock. And
Mm.
before we left that weekend, it was a 3-day weekend before we left, we had bought a home.
I love
Went
it.
back. My husband wasn't even retired yet. But our home was going to be built. And
Mm.
so it was on that timeline where it was going to be, finished by the time that he was going to retire. And
Mhm.
so that's what we did. So here I am. I came here with no job. And so when I was here, I've been applying for jobs, searching for jobs. And eventually I wound up at Austin Community College, and they had a compensation position that was open and available. So that's where I started my compensation, my full-time dedicated compensation role. So I did
Mhm.
compensation here and there, but so now that is kind of like morphed into, where I am here at Toshiba.
It's a great story. I love that story. And if you are like taking notes right now, I want you to write down, I wrote down, make your life in the world. That's what you said your dad shared with you. And I'm just like that is a quote that will stick with me forever. And a shout out to your dad serving and your husband for serving. We appreciate that. We're so thankful for that. What a journey you have been on. This is so great. There's so much here. I want to start with first and foremost. By the way, I went to college for a year and then I left, went and got married, had a family, and then came back. So I get that. And at one time you're like, you said you dreamed to be an attorney, like you envision yourself up there, just like you see on the movie screen. I love that. But sometimes, things don't quite work out. You're like, it's good to dream, but then you face reality. You're like, man, I gotta get moving here. But something you said that really stuck with me, and you made a comment that one of your best moments was when you got laid off. And many times I hear people talking about failure and how they all seem to relate that to this great moment. But when we're going through failure, it's like the worst moment. Talk about that. Like, how did you get through that? Because I'm sure there's probably some listeners right now. They're like, I'm going through that right now. I'm struggling. How'd you get through that? Because I feel like once we get through it, we can look back and go, oh, that was the greatest moment ever. But while we're going through that, it's tough, isn't it?
It is tough. Being laid off for the first time, you're just like, okay, I'm not quite sure exactly what happened. But in over the course of my career, and I will preface this and say this, that over the course of my career, I have been laid off. I was counting last night 5 times. The first time you're just like, okay, they give you they pay you out this, and from Pepsi, I was very lucky that they provided me with a severance, and that was wonderful. So I'm just like, woohoo, this is great, it's vacation, right, no more commuting. But then it happens again,
Hmm.
and when it happens again, you're just like, am I a horrible employee? What am
Hmm.
I doing? What am I doing wrong? It doesn't make sense. You think that in an organization, they talk about, their values and their mission statement, and they want to have the best employees. And so you work your butt off, right?
Hmm.
You dedicate long hours, you dedicate
Hmm.
all your time. Sometimes you even sacrifice, dinner with your family or
Hmm.
outings or something like that,
Yeah.
or vacation, because you are dedicated to your job. You're dedicated to, and doing an excellent job. And then you get laid off.
Hmm.
It's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
And when it happens multiple times, you're just like, what did I do? And there's no feedback they're going to give you. They're laying you off. And it's just like, goodbye. You take it. And I'm very fortunate to have, a great family that has, supported me. And, I know that we'll probably talk about some, mentors and stuff like that a little bit later on, but you realize that without that support group saying it's okay, it's just a bump in the road, you
Yeah.
can't lay down, you have bills to pay. You have to take it as, okay, what did I learn
Mm.
from the past amount of time? And what am I going to do better the next time? It's very easy just to pull a blanket over your head and just, sleep or just eat yourself to, until you're miserable. But if you want to be successful, you want to get back in there, you just got to jump right back in there. And yes, it does take time to find another job. And so that's why, over the course of my career, I always went back to retail because I
Mm.
always knew that I could do there. And I always took those times and I learned new skills. And, nowadays, you really just have to say, I failed and it's okay.
Mm.
My
Mm.
life is my life is not perfect. There's no one that is perfect. We might like to think we are, but we're not perfect. So you have to take the things that come to you as it was meant to happen. And it was probably one of those things that happened to set you on a different path. And that's how I've looked at it. And that's something that, my brother, my dad, when he was alive, they would tell me those things. It's okay. It's you know what, pick yourself up and let's get going. You have bills to pay because I'm not paying your bills.
You got get back in there. You got bills to pay. I love that. I want to tell you, I can relate to that. I didn't get laid off, but I was about to get laid off. I remember going through a time in my career where I knew I needed to make a change, and I was at church and I heard a guy stand up, and he was sharing a book that he had read, and it was called "If You Want to Walk on Water, You Got to Get Out of the Boat." And I realized at that time, I got to get out of the boat. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about, listen, you're knocked down. You just got to get up. You got to, and surround yourself with people who will like blow that encouragement into you and inspire you and help you through the process. And I think you're just right on target. So it sounds like you've been surrounded by great people, which leads to mentors. I do like to talk about people that have helped us get to where they are. It seems to be a common thread when I interview high performers in the workplace. They all talk about people that helped them get there. I would love for you to share a little bit about some people who have helped you get to where you are today. Maybe some things that were, that really stuck with you.
Great. And thank you so much for, asking, this question. I would love to share. So, first and foremost, what my mentors was my dad. I was
Yeah.
daddy's girl. And, again, I talked about how he had an 8th grade, education. I still feel that he was very successful.
Yeah.
He was a staff sergeant in the Air Force. And then back in that timing, that was like one of the highest, rankings that you can get. Being an African American male, right? Back in the day, 50s, 60s, that time frame. And so my dad always, he taught me a lot of things because of the things that he had to deal with when he was a child and growing up and getting to his path in leadership. And so, it's like always treat people like you want to be treated, right? The golden rule. And that's still something that, don't really say a lot, but I mean, I still believe in that. And, he's always take the higher road. He goes, smile, again, dress well, be there, be on time, all those good things. And I know that he always wanted for me to have a great life. Even though at this time, I'm like, I said, there's a point where I was just like, gosh, he's just like leading me down the wrong path. He doesn't know what I want. He's telling me what to do. And of course, I'm like, daddy's little girl, I'm going to follow it and do it. But, I know that he wanted me to have a better life than he had for himself.
Yeah.
And along with that was, my brother, Robin. He's amazing. Even today, he has always been my biggest just my biggest supporter. He is
Mm,
just an all a champion saying, yes, rah, rah, we can go, we can do this. To this day, he will send me, little inspirational reels, or little, snippets that will get me, motivated. I don't necessarily feel down or anything like that, but sometimes it's just right on those days. He is, has been successful in his career working for the state of California. He's now retired. And then he has a successful real estate business in his retirement years. But, he's always saying, you know what? He goes, be ready to say yes. He sent me this really great
mm,
clip that says, you always have to be ready to say yes. You never know when something is going to, come your way. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be fearful of it. Just say yes, because you don't know what type of door that it's going to open up for you. And so growing up, he would always, the one thing that he used to say, and I know, and we laugh every single time that we hear it. And so sometimes, my niece and I, which I'm very close with, we'll text that each other, and don't let the craps pull you back in the bucket. So when you go, and so it's just like you gotta climb out, and as you're climbing out, all what are the other crabs doing? They're trying to pull you back down. And so sometimes you just have to set yourself apart. You have to do something different. If you're conforming to, what everyone else is doing, are you really going to be successful? Are you going to be, are you going to be a leader? So that is something that is just kind of ingrained in us. I mean, I
mm,
know that as kids say that, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to, start telling my great nieces and nephews that when they start getting older. But that is something that he has always said and said to me, and just he's always wanted me to, have a really good life as well. I mean, obviously we know our background, we know where we came from, and we're never going to forget where we come from, right?
mm, right.
But he's been one of my greatest mentors, and still, today, I would just love to have some of the amazing achievements that he has had. Professionally, there's probably one mentor that stands out to me. For every once in a while, I'll send her a message going, "Oh, I left you too soon." Her name is Quinn Clifton, and
Mm,
she is now the vice president of human resources at Genuine Parts Company. And while I was working under her, I worked for Genuine Parts Company, and I was an HR manager over San Diego and Las Vegas. I know that she spent a lot of time traveling with me. And so that was her way of developing me. There are many times that, she's had conversations about me saying, okay, the next time that you have this conversation, you should think about having it this way.
mm.
And and I was like, okay. And we used to laugh, all the HR managers used to laugh saying that, Queen would be the person that would be able to cuss you out, but not ever saying a cuss word. Because she had just had a way of just of teaching you, and providing you constructive criticism, and it sounding like it was the highest compliment that
I
anyone
love
could
that.
ever give you.
I love that.
But she was always one to encourage me. There are times I talk with her, I mean, she was just like, you know what, you're ready. She's like, you need to get your SHRM certification. She had hers. And she's like, but no, she's like, you need to go. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a CP. She's like, no, no, no. She's like, you have enough knowledge that you can earn your SCP. So go and take that exam. She has always been that person to just, kind of uplift you,
Mm,
and just kind of guide you throughout your path, and was not, I appreciate her so much because there are times that I was very discouraged. Again, being, when you work for a genuine parts company, and, all the stores are Napa Auto Parts. So when you go into, again, another male dominated,
mhm.
field, it can be intimidating
Yeah.
sometimes. But she was just like, nope, she'd go right there arm in arm with me, and she would just push me forward. And she is just, she's been an amazing mentor. And
Yeah.
so when I left Genuine Parts Company, I was like, thank you. Probably a year later, I called her and said, I left you way too soon. I still had so much more to learn. And I remember her just laughing and saying, she's like, it's okay. And I know that if I really needed her, that she's just a phone call away. I know how to
Yeah.
get in touch with her.
Yeah.
But it's great.
I love that. You need to send her that in a frame. I left you way too soon. That's fantastic. I read a, I don't know, it was a quote not too long ago, and it said, Good mentors hope you will get through it, and great mentors know you'll get through it. So it sounds like to me, she was a great mentor. I love that. You know, Corrine, when you said that, she can say something and it feels like she just gushed out. It reminded me of my mom. She always talks about how, you know, you can tell somebody off, but if you'll put a little bit of sugar on it, they'll enjoy the trip. So she has that. So I could relate to that. And I love it when you bring family into mentors. And because I've had some great mentors, people in my family that have been great mentors for me and continue to be great mentors. And it's like you have that, you know, you have that togetherness, you know, each other so well. And to have people inside your family encouraging you. And I love how your brother sends you videos and this is just good stuff. I love that. I appreciate you sharing that. I know that people listening will appreciate that too. Hey, I do like to ask, you know, here you are, like you've been on this long journey. I mean, you were walking around with Kmart with a blue light special. I mean, at one time in your career and in safety, and today you took this role in compensation. I always like to ask the question around purpose. You know, I wrote Find Your Lane, and I always talk about finding your lane, which is finding your calling. Was there a moment in your career, or do you feel like you found your lane?
I do feel like I found my lane. I mean, it's, you know, I've done everything. I mean, I feel like I've done everything. I've worked in many industries, you know, everything from manufacturing, retail, you know, grocery. I mean, I feel like I've done it all. But when it comes to compensation,
Yeah.
um, compensation is one of those things that most employees really do not understand how they are paid. And it's like their benefits. They really don't understand what all of their benefits entail, what a deductible means. And so compensation is the same way. They don't understand, many employees do not understand that when we talk about total compensation, that it's your vacation time that you have, it's all the other, you know, the bonuses. That's part of total compensation. They were thinking, you know, just what's in my pocket. What did I, you know, what did I take home? What did I net? You know, that's their compensation. And we look at it very differently. So I have been in compensation. One of the reasons why I love it is because I'm able to help people. I'm able to communicate with them, make them feel better about, you know, where they work, how they're paid, where they can go, and, you know, and just, you know, have them understand. So it's building rapport with them. That has just been, you know, it's amazing. And when they come to you and directly and they ask you, you know, can you please tell me, you know, how can I get to the next level? How can I, you know, how can I make more money? You know, having those conversations with employees, you know that you are having some type of influence in their life. It's one of those things where, you know, just in compensation, I get to do so much. I have to know all the laws,
Yeah.
you know, that are in, I have to know, you know, immigration laws. I have to know everything about HR. So if you're thinking about your business partner, you're thinking about your VP, your managers, you know, all those people who have to have subject matter expertise in a certain area, that's mine. I have to know compensation. I have to know how everything, you know, affects that when it comes to, you know, inclusion and equity. I have to understand that. I have to look at, you know, gender pay gaps. I have to look at all of that, and I have to know and be on top of that and know my game. My responsibilities that I have, you know, especially here at Toshiba, and it was very much so when I was at Austin Community Colleges, I have to provide my advice and consult to all of leadership because they have to know they're busy doing other things. So they depend on me to make sure that I'm going to help guide them in the most appropriate way that's is both strategic and is also going to keep us out of, you know, trouble. No one wants to have to deal with litigation. So, you know, with that compensation, it is my lane. It's something that I enjoy. There are times that I do not enjoy it, but I really do enjoy compensation because I feel like I get to do little bits and pieces of everything in HR, and then also, you know, get really educate people on, you know, on what it's like in pay, which really kind of drives them.
I love all of this. And what's interesting about this conversation here is how you found your lane in compensation, but yet when you decided to go into compensation, you said it's because it's my weakest area and I need to get stronger in that. And I think that's a hard move, right? A lot of people want to stay in the lane that they know. Like, I'm just going to get better in this particular area. I remember when I took my PHR, I remember compensation was my weak area. And I didn't run out and just say, hey, I need to get better at this, but I was aware of it. But for you, you're like, you know what? I'm going to get better at this. And today you've become a subject matter expert. You've been able, and you're also, like you said, you have a big responsibility, and that's educating your leadership team as well. I'm just curious if you could go back and just think, how have you been able to, how were you able to do that? How have you been able to create influence in the workplace? Because again, you said, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to get better at this. And then today you're influencing the process. Any tips for people out there that want to be more of an influence in their organization?
I would say the best way that you can do is communication, over communicate, be transparent, approach things with factual information. My leadership, they want to see facts. They may not ask for them. I just had a conversation with our CEO, and we have the facts right there waiting for him, just in case. And the best thing that you can do to influence people is to, if they're asking you to present something, a process, something that you're going to implement, don't have just one and try and sell it on just one. Have different options, saying we have this option here, we have this option here, and here's a third one. And this are the benefits of this. This is how it benefits employees. This is how it benefits the organization. And in 6 months from now, a year from now, this is what you'll see. This is the anticipated result that we're going to look at if we follow this plan, if we communicate. It's going back to, to the leadership and getting their buy-in without necessarily getting their buy-in. Let them know what they're going to benefit. And if you're a for-profit organization, let them know that this is strategically how we're going to move here, and this will increase our profits. With this, we're going to save some money by doing this. This is going to take less time, so I can spend more time doing this. A good example is I wanted a system that was going to help me help with pay equity and all the things that we were missing after I identified that. I did the SWOT analysis that we kind of learned in lead HR.
Yep.
I've done that for many years. You kind of had to when you're in safety, but it's, you do that and you find out where are those opportunities at. And I'm going to present to leadership those opportunities, and I'm going to give them solutions. And one of the things, going back to Quinn, is she would always tell me, if you see and determine that there's a problem, don't tell me that there's a problem. Don't come to me and say, here, there's a problem, because I'm going to say, okay, then what's the solution? So she would always say, what's the solution? So that's why I'm saying, if you're going to be something that you're going to present the problem, here's a solution, and here's multiple solutions and ways that we can do it, and making sure that you end up being strategic without actually knowing that you're being strategic. And so that's what I would actually say, is just, really think things through. Think it not just what is good for right now, but what is that going to look like in the future? And really, anticipate what it could happen. Anticipate being no. I've been told no so many times. And, I'm not one to walk away from no. I would like to say, as a child, I grew up going like, you're not going to tell me no, because I'm going to get what I want. But it's, you're going to you say no, it's going to be, but that doesn't mean that it's no forever. It's no right now.
Yeah.
And it might be, the time that you presented it. So go back, do it over, and present it in another way. Learn how to communicate effectively, learn and watch people's movements, their body movements, their body language, really get to know a person. And in order to influence someone, you have to have already established that rapport.
Yeah.
Let all your work, talk for you. Be on time, don't miss deadlines. Be on time with your work, be early with your work, submit, don't wait. If it's something is due tomorrow, I would have already submitted it last week. You
Mm,
know, it's one of those things where, let that reputation and your work speak for you. And it makes it's so much easier
mm,
to influence your leadership. It makes it easier to influence your employees. Be seen. I know it kind of goes into that introvert, extrovert type thing, but
mhm.
you really have to put yourself out there if you want to be that leader. If you want them to say, "Hey, she's a SME, go talk to her." Like my Triro does right now. She'll say, "What did Carla say?" And it's like, oh, and it's great, and it's like, well, this is what I said. I've already copied her on her, and same for my senior manager. I've already copied and
Mhm.
informed them. But it's you have to have um just that ability to communicate. And when someone tells you no, don't go hiding.
Mm,
Saying, okay, so next time, what could I have done better? Always ask for feedback. So
yeah.
those are the tips that I have, is just you got to go at it. And don't give up.
I
That's
love
what
it.
happens when you fail. Fail is like, first attempt in learning. And you take it as that. And so just over my course, I mean, I used to be really shy and not really say anything, and would just sit back and not say anything. And then after I leave the meeting, I would go, and my mouth would be running a mile a minute because I had all these things to say. And so now I've learned how to, really
Mm.
just, speak up.
I love all of that. Speak up. I love how you talked about communicating and over communicating and giving options. That benefits the employee, the organization, in the future. This is so good, Carla. I want to take that communication piece and I want to shift that over to volunteer leadership. You're currently leading one of our local SHRM chapters, WILCO HR in Texas SHRM, and so we're so grateful for your leadership. But one of the things that caught my attention as you began to lead was your communication. And I'm seeing it from afar. You're sending out newsletters, you are doing videos. I would love for you to share kind of, first of all, has that helped do you get feedback, I guess, from the chapter? What kind of benefits have you seen from that? Because I want other people that are listening right now that are like, you know what, I need to find a different way of communicating.
One of the things and that I learned last year as president-elect, working with Samantha Fulford, and I
Oh,
mean,
Samantha
Samantha's
Fulford, isn't
amazing.
she amazing?
She is amazing. She is amazing. And I love how she communicates as well. She's
Yeah,
very, very delicate with the way that she communicates. She's
yeah.
very clear. She makes sense, where I'm a little bit more bold. So, just working with her and I last year, what we did is we met on a monthly basis as much as possible, and we strategized as to what we wanted to see. And she made a full commitment that she was going to help me achieve all the ideas that I had. One of the things was like bringing back the newsletter. It's something that WILCO HR used to do all the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And it kind of went away during the pandemic. And so we brought it back late last year. It's really a continuation of all the things that her and I have put together last year. And so I set out that, I wanted to make sure that we had more members, because we were seeing less and less members show up to
Yeah.
our meetings. And, with that, I want them back because I miss that. We are still working on a hybrid, schedule right now. So we have every other meeting is virtual, and we really want to get back to in person, but we need people to come in order for us to, make it feasible for us to, be in person. So what better ways to, hey, you know what, we're back, we're still here, we didn't go anywhere. And I know that we're not going to, and I love Austin SHRM and their ability to communicate something on a weekly basis. We don't do that because we're volunteers, and we're all doing this ourselves. And so the only way to get that information out there and for us to, to gain is, I thought about what Austin SHRM was doing, and I'm like, I need to do that communication as well. So let's do it. Send out a quarterly newsletter. I'll send out a president's message. And the more information that I can communicate out to our members, even our lapsed members, or I need to do that. I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn, because I know that has a different reach. Not everyone lives in Williamson County, or is able to make our meetings or be a part of being a member, but we may have a program that might benefit them. So I've just decided that, okay, We'll put it on our website. We're going to do that newsletter. We're going to have every one of our divisions actually communicate what's going on. But most importantly, it's important that that communication goes out there and people know. We utilize the, SHRM to send out all a message to the at-large members. And so I wrote a nice message to get that out there. And I actually went to another meeting. It was like the Texas Women in Business meeting. And someone looked at me and said, "You're Carla Dykstra?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And she's like, where are you from? And I said, "WILCO HR." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I just got a message from you." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "I didn't know that WILCO HR existed." And I'm going, "Oh my goodness." I literally just wanted to cry, because here I am thinking that, we need to do a little bit more. So since then, I've reached out to so many people, businesses within the Chamber of Commerce. My neighbor, she is the president-elect for the Round Rock Chamber of Commerce. And so, just reaching out to different businesses, posting things, within our Facebook page and like my neighborhood page, saying, "Hey, we're here, we can help you. Do you do HR? And are you an HR, person of one, or, you're not quite sure, you need resources?" WILCO HR can offer that. So it's really, stepping out of my comfort zone, and you're thinking, what? But yes, it's really stepping out of my comfort zone, and just, saying, "Hey, we're going to tell you a little bit about WILCO HR and how we can help you." We know and we understand that, businesses don't always will pay for your SHRM membership or for you to get that information. But, just networking and being part of other groups. I have a great board, a board that loves to, half of my board is new for this year. They have a lot of connections. So I'm telling them, engage the folks that invite them to our events. Let's get our events there. I'll attend your event, and I'm there, as a representative of WILCO HR. And so I've just done everything that I have possibly have done to put us out there. And it has resulted, I know that we had about 17 new members since the beginning of the year. And again, it's just that communication and the importance of that.
I love that. I love it because, you're on a mission to help people. You've talked about that throughout this entire interview, and the work that you do every day. And then, leading as a volunteer leader, you want to be able to help people, and as a compensation leader. And I love that. And people that are part of Austin SHRM probably love this too, how they have inspired you to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to, if I'm not meeting as regularly as they are, we can still communicate." And I love that. And of course, Brian Hayes, your district director, give him a shout out. I've had him on the,
Hey, Brian.
he's been on the podcast. He's super inspirational. Oh, there's just so much. I told you when we started this, the time was going to absolutely fly by. I do want to ask you one question before we shift to It's Time to Accelerate. And that is, in the workplace or as a volunteer leader, do you ever find yourself giving advice? It's just so good that you just find yourself sharing with others often.
I do. And sometimes I think I share too much. And the reason why I do that, Bruce, it's important that I don't want to see people fail like I did. In our world that we live in today, it is very confusing. Social media takes over everything. The news gives us gives us information that just makes us not want to exist as human beings, I think sometimes. But it's just one of those things where I share a lot of my experiences, so that people realize that I have failed, and that it is okay to fail. It is okay for you to say, I made a bad decision, but I'm going to learn from this decision, and I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to correct this. It's just important right now, if we look at the future of HR, and we look at the individuals who will soon take over and they will lead. It's a different generation. Everything is I'm going to text you. And that's how we're going to communicate. And we still have to realize that we still need to be face to face. We need to talk to each other. We can't have our heads down. So I share all of my experiences, good, bad, indifferent, some funny, some not.
Mm.
Just so that people understand that, you know, the world out there is huge. And there's a lot going on in the world. But we have to face it. We can't fear it. And, you know, we have to step up to it. You know,
Mm.
we've always talked about, you know, facing your fears, right? Everyone says face your
Mm.
fears. And it's, of course, it's a lot easier said than done.
Of course.
But the thing is though, is that, you know, our world is ever changing. And in order for us to, you know, to do that, you know, we have to share stories, just so that people understand. You know, they have to, you know, we empathize with them. And as we're sharing those stories, we hope that a person will be able to, you know, let that sink in and take that and not make the same mistakes that I have made, because I've made a lot of mistakes. You know, I wouldn't wish, you know, half my life on, you know, on anyone, not
Mm.
even my worst enemy, which I don't think I have that many enemies, but
Mm.
or any at all. But it's one of those things where I don't want someone to struggle when I have a way that I can help them.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that we cannot control, but there are things that we can control. I can control how a person learns, and by sharing my experiences with them, so then they
Mm.
can learn and have different perspectives,
Yeah.
um, whether they want to or not. I do share that. So that's, you know, why I do a lot of mentoring, um, just to give those individuals a different perspective of what it was like when I started and the journey that I have had and what it's going to be like in the future. We don't know
Mm.
exactly what the future is going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
but let's make sure that they are ready. Let's make sure that if for some reason, you know, all of our iPhones and Androids, just, you know, something happens to them and we don't have them anymore, how can we do things manually and still survive and still
Mm.
sustain? And so that's, you know, where, you know, I go about, you know, sharing, you know, my stories with other people and where I've in my journey.
You're an inspiration. This has been so
Oh,
good.
thank you.
This has been so good. Hey, let's shift to it's time to accelerate. I'm going to ask you a few fun questions before we wrap up here.
All
You
right.
like reading books or would you rather listen to a podcast?
Books,
Books. Yeah.
books, all
Me
day
too.
long, books.
Yeah. Highlight them, underline them. I love all that. Hey, I always talk about great leaders or grateful leaders. I can tell you're a grateful leader. What are you most grateful for?
I am grateful for the people that I am surrounded by. And it goes that line that list is long and it's extensive. You know, from
Yeah.
my Texas SHRM folks, to the people that I met, you know, back in Washington D.C., to the people that I used to work with a long time ago, to all the friends that I've known since kindergarten, and I'm still in contact with them, you know, via
Mm.
Facebook. You know, I am grateful just for every single person that has come into my life. And so that is the one thing that I'm just, you know, truly grateful for, because, you know, I do believe that people come into your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
You know, so just the folks that I've just had the opportunity to meet, whether it's been a minute or I've known them forever.
Yeah. That's so good. I love that. Hey, so what energizes you?
Challenges, challenges, and
Challenges.
just because yes, anything that is a challenge, it kind of motivates me. And it's just like, nope, you know, nope, nope. And it's truly what it is. And all these years, I'm like, I don't know. But I realize it's anything that's a challenge. I'm just like going, no, it's not a challenge. And so, you know, everything presents itself differently.
Yeah.
So anything that is a challenge, whether it's work, whether it's life, got to figure it out, because it's going to make me a stronger person.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Hey, last question. Carla, 10 years older, is around the corner and she's knocking at your door and you're going to go answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
It's like, girl, you're still not working out. Girl, you need to work out.
I love that 10 years older Carla Dykstra. That is so fantastic. You are driving in the leadership lane. Like I said, I've admired you from the time I met you, and I can't
Oh,
wait
thank
to
you.
see all the things ahead for you. Hey, somebody listening, they heard you talk about sharing your experiences or not being afraid to fail or just some different things you talked about on the podcast. Is there a way for them to connect with you or follow you?
Yes, they can actually connect with me through LinkedIn, or they can actually reach out to me at president@wilcohr.org. And more than happy to, have a conversation, meet up for coffee, a light lunch, follow me, talk with me, let's chat. You have questions about compensation, want me to do talks on compensation, just let me know. I'm here to help everybody. So, because we're all in this world together and on a journey together. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. We're all on this journey together. I will put the link to Wilco HR in the show notes. So if someone wants to learn more about Wilco HR, they can certainly click that link, and I'll put your LinkedIn link in that email as well, so they can connect with you. And if you do connect with Carla, be sure and let her know you heard her on Life in the Leadership Lane, and maybe something even that you heard her say, and that will make that connection that much stronger from the beginning. So Carla, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming in and sharing this like wisdom and perspective and insights. And of course, I appreciate your friendship. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, Bruce. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.